Hi, everybody. So on the way down to Florida, we stopped at the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta. I thought I'd do a video on my thoughts on the different exhibits and kind of a walkthrough tour of it. Got to open with the whale sharks. That's what they're best known for. But then check out this massive freshwater stingray. This is the biggest one I've ever seen. Absolutely incredible. I mean, he's probably close to 3 feet across. Absolutely massive. But yeah, here is the intro hallway. It's a moon jellyfish tank, kind of the entire length of the first hallway. First up, we went to the Ocean Voyager exhibit. Big manta ray right off. But seconds later, one of the whale sharks showed up and kind of stole the show. Absolutely incredible that they can transport these, first of all, but that they can hold them here. Then zebra sharks. These are one of my favorite sharks. I actually saw a solid white one in the New York Aquarium. I have a tour on that earlier. But yeah, zebra sharks are amazing. They're actually one of the closest relatives to whale sharks, which they actually share a pretty similar kind of body shape, so that makes sense. Yeah, these are one of the closest living relatives to the whale sharks. Then next up, this big old Goliath grouper. Had a little bit of Popeye, but I'm sure that should heal no problem. Looks pretty minor. I've seen far worse on fish that have recovered no problem. But yeah, absolutely massive. Looks tiny in this tank. But yeah, this is their Ocean Voyager exhibit. You can see actually there's one of the manta rays way in the back swimming there. But the whale sharks definitely steal the show. I didn't even get a good look at some of the other insane fish they have, like sawfish. That's definitely one of the highlights for me, but I never got a really good, clear look at them. But yeah, just you can see how far back this tank goes. It is a massive tank. A lot of people are asking me, how ethical is it to keep these guys? They were taken back when Taiwan actually had a fishing limit on these guys, so they allowed a certain amount to be taken every year. So they were intended for the food market. So in a way, they saved them. This tank, I will say, this big open window here, this looks way smaller in person. It's actually about the size of a small movie theater is what it kind of reminds me of. In this video, it looks way bigger. But the tank overall looks absolutely massive, front to back. But you can see taking his time, kind of gracefully swimming. But yeah, it's absolutely insane that we can keep these in downtown Atlanta. Then here you can see, I don't know exactly what they're feeding, some kind of filter feeding food, probably krill or something like that. And they just followed this diver all the way around the tank. So really, really cool to see. I think the whale sharks have plenty of space to survive. All their needs are for sure met here. And as far as like captivity goes for them, they're a pretty simple fish, I think, in their mind. They're pretty robotic with just how they act. They're big open water filter feeding, and they did tons of studies on these guys in the wild, trying to figure out if it would even be possible to keep these in captivity. It turns out the only reason they swim thousands of miles in the wild is kind of to chase their food. So they kind of migrate along with their food. Here, they don't have to do that. All their food is kind of brought to them. And I will say in this shot, this tank absolutely looks bigger in person from this angle, where the other angle it looks smaller, that kind of open glass pane. But yeah, I think they have enough space, but it is like the limit because these guys aren't full grown. They'll definitely get bigger here. But the entire length of the tank front to back is very, very big. This is even more impressive to me than the whale sharks. This is a spotted rat shark, or a chimera they're also known as. And it's actually got eggs hanging from it. Every time I've seen a rat shark in captivity, I don't know why, but they've always had these eggs kind of hanging behind them. And it turns out they are eggs. I looked it up after. Super, super cool. Cold water. They do fine. They're a deep water fish, but if you bring them up and just keep them cold, they actually do really well. They also had some spider crabs in there. This one's more questionable to me than the whale sharks. They've got a pod of beluga whales and a pretty bare tank. Nothing too terribly special. I guess they have each other to interact with at least, but this tank seems small. This seems less reasonable to me than the whale sharks, just because a whale shark doesn't do a whole lot of thinking. It's pretty much opens its mouth and inhales food. These guys are definitely on the intelligence side, more complex than a whale shark. And they are cool, though. They are very cool to see. Next up, we've got some leafy sea dragons. They had a lot of leafy sea dragons in this tank. Here's just one corner of the tank. You can see then all spread throughout. They were everywhere. Could have used some taller kelp, I thought, but overall, I mean, they look in great health. I'm sure they know what they're doing here. But yeah, they are amazing. Then, of course, we've got to get the penguins in here. I believe these were the African penguins. They're more of a warm water penguin, probably easier to keep, I'm sure. But yeah, he dove right in front of us. Super cool. Another very, very adorable one where they're sea otters. I believe these are all rescued sea otters. But you can see just how cute. I'm not sure what was going on. Like I said, I believe they're all rescues. But it looked like one later on here was its back legs were paralyzed. But you can see them, just adorable guys. And this guy dragging his back legs, poor guy. But definitely better off in captivity if that is the case. Then they had a few different jellyfish tanks, always beautiful to see. Their reef tank was pretty awesome. Pretty basic corals, you know, the giant, massive monopora. Stuff like that just grows like a weed after so long. So nothing too spectacular on the coral side. That big red money, big green money there. A couple big favias. The real spectacular ones to me were the clams. Definitely at least one of these was a gigas clam. I think that one on the bottom left. I believe that's a Durasa on the right. I'm pretty, I don't know. Most of the clams I deal with are 5 inches or less, so it's insane to see them this big. Another one I think is a little more questionable than the whale sharks, the pod of dolphins. Pretty bare tank. This is kind of their dolphin show tank. I think they may have a larger tank they actually hold them in, or at least a separate area where they can swim that we don't see. But yeah, pod of dolphins. I feel like these guys are probably too common in public aquariums, but they did a good job. They seem healthy, plenty of room. One that didn't seem like it had enough room was the sturgeon. I will say this tank was pretty disappointing because it's very vertical. Like you walk in and it looks like it's going to be a massive tank. It's very up and down. This is a shovel nose sturgeon, and you can see his nose is pretty bashed up for one, the tank being like too shallow front to back, and then also all the decorations. That's definitely not helping out the sturgeon. So I was looking around, and my eel pit filled up will actually have more horizontal space than this tank will. But you can see his nose is pretty bashed up there. And then the larger lake sturgeon was even sadder than this one. But yeah, definitely, like it's about 5 or 6 foot wide at the bottom here, if that. And it definitely shows on these sturgeon. They are pretty beat up. A lot of decorations too, all these big fake wood. It'd be an awesome tank. Like it's huge, like it's probably 20 feet deep, but it's all vertical space, which the sturgeon really don't care for all that much. This lake sturgeon, I believe, is what he is. He really shows that kind of not the best tank for him. But you can see how tall this tank is. It's insanely tall, but it's just such odd dimensions, especially be keeping kind of these sturgeon in. You can see he's definitely got a broken back that's healed or stunted to some degree. Like my platinum alligator gar who bashed his back on a decoration. Same thing happens in public aquariums. So he's definitely gotten a broken back that's healed, so he's got that kink. But his head was also scraped up, probably just from too much going on in this tank. They like a big open area, not with all this driftwood, not so vertical, more wide open swimming spaces what these guys really require. But you can see he's got to dodge driftwood while he's kind of peacefully gliding around here. But yeah, really in that nose, you can really see that wound. But yeah, this is the tank from the surface. So it's definitely wider here, but it's about maybe even less wide than the eel pit is. Like this kind of pool here is the main dimensions, and there's a couple little smaller side passages. But you can really see the scratch marks on the head of this lake sturgeon. I'm pretty sure it's a lake sturgeon. I might be wrong there. Sturgeon are pretty hard to tell apart, really. But yeah, definitely bashed up, and then he's got that healed back. So this one was kind of disappointing. I was excited to see the sturgeon now that I have some. Then they had some Polypterus indlicari bichers, saddled bichers. Super cool to see. Mine are actually all bigger than this, and I bet mine are way younger too. Mine are all probably 3 or 4 years old, about 20 inches. But then they're freshwater stingrays. This was an awesome tank. This was a touch tank. I've never seen freshwater stingrays in a touch tank. Kind of different hybrids, black diamonds, pearl stingrays. I think this is a Henley King Henley is what it would be known as in the trade. But this female Matoro, she is a tank. I've seen trash can lid sized Matoros before, but this one, I mean, it's probably 3 foot across. I've got pretty big hands, and they look small on the back of this ray. So absolutely insane. Small little display of electric eels. Maybe a 6, maybe an 8 foot tank. 2 big electric eels, awesome to see. Largest knife fish in the world, and definitely electrical. I actually used to have a baby, and it was definitely one of the most special fish I've had. So cool to see them at this size. And these are probably half grown. I mean, they have tons of potential. Then there's another shot of that massive, massive stingray. Definitely one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. And unfortunately, wild-caught Matoras like this are probably the most common in the aquarium hobby. So this is the full potential of that $200 baby Matoro stingray. Even the black diamonds these days stay smaller. Definitely probably the worst choice for as common as they are. This was probably my favorite display out of the whole aquarium. Not too many aquariums have kind of live feedings like this. They had a bait ball in this shark tank, and the sharks were actually going for them. It was insane to see this giant tornado of bait fish. Big hammerhead, gotta love them. But yeah, there'd occasionally a shark would shoot through this big bait ball and just clear out the space. So that was super, super cool to see. I've never seen a display like this where they do the full bait fish tornado going on in captivity. That's such a unique display. Plus the big sharks are always cool. But yeah, you just see a tornado of fish, and then the sharks would come in and punch holes in it. Looks like they have a force field, how all the small fish avoid them. Yeah, definitely one of the most unique setups I've ever seen. And that's compared to their whale shark setup. I thought this was more impressive than the whale sharks. But yeah, you can really see them go in and snag a minnow here and there. So unique. But yeah, the next few videos will probably be, I'll definitely post some eel pit videos here and there. But onward to the rest of Florida. We went from Kentucky all the way down to Key West. So a lot of South Florida content coming. Lots to see.